speaker will be discussing the current state of the office market. Mark Urban is here to do that for us today. Mark has focused on the office and medical properties market since 1983. He joined Picor in 1987 and was one of the original 8 founding members of that firm. In 1995, he created his own firm, and this month, actually, it'll be 20 years for him running his own shop. Mark is both a CCIM and an SIOR. He's the only office and medical specialist in Tucson with both of those designations, and he's held them for approximately 20 years. He is the longest tenured member of the Rio Nuevo district. He must deserve a badge for that. That sounds like a lot of work and a lot of battles. And he was originally appointed by the Speaker of the, where he was originally appointed by the Speaker of the House and has been reaffirmed by 2 new speakers since that time. He serves currently as the district secretary. So with that, I'd like to welcome Mark Urban.
It's kind of interesting. So yesterday, good to see you. Yesterday was my 5th year anniversary for sitting on that board, and it's kind of funny because the mayor came and spoke at Rotary, and I took that goofy article that appeared and I cut all those people's faces out of it, and I put the mayor and the Easter Bunny and a whole bunch of other folks in there. We had a little fun with the mayor yesterday at Rotary with that. So first, thanks for the opportunity to allow me to come share my thoughts on the market. I had a chart up there that hopefully will appear, but if it doesn't, it's really no big deal, because what it is an EKG of somebody right before death. You can kind of see the bouncing and then the dribbling along the bottom. I don't think you need to be an office specialist to kind of predict where things are going. I'm not sure that a historical look back at the market for the past 30 years has helped me at all, because the last 5 years have been interesting to say the least. So what have we seen in the last 5 years? You know, we've seen high vacancy rates, we've seen marginal, if any, positive absorption, and basically no new construction. I think this, for the last 5 years, has been the new norm. Hopefully it doesn't continue to be that norm. Basically, we've had a lot of market correction since the Great Recession hit our country. I think Tucson is a second-tier, tertiary market, has been especially hard hit, and I think its recovery, obviously, much slower when compared with other markets. I think the good news is that we did hit the bottom. We did that a number of years ago, but unfortunately, we haven't really seen any measurable change since then. To me, it's kind of like just grabbing a rock, throwing it in the stream, and watching it bounce along the bottom. It doesn't really move up or down much, it just kind of moves. You know, I want to touch a little bit about vacancy rates, because I think there's been a lot of misnomer about that. I asked 4 different office brokers, what do you think the office vacancy rate is? And here's what they said: 13%, 15%, 17%, and 20%. No wonder people are confused. So what's the right number? I guess that kind of depends. You know, if you look at the market as we used to look at it traditionally, we would take competitive for-lease buildings that were 10,000 square feet or larger, and that's what we would use. And if you look at it that way, the number is 19%. I think CB has it pegged at about 20%, so somewhere between 19 and 20%. If you look at CoStar, they're pegging it at 13. So you'd ask, what is the difference in those 2 studies? So I think the key one is, well, a couple of key ones. First, they look at all buildings, regardless of size. They don't really make a distinction between for-lease and owner-occupied. They don't really make a distinction if it's an office building sitting in an industrial park. And I could kind of go on. They also don't take a look at what is the building class, and traditionally we've looked at Class A and B market. Regardless of which report or reports that you look at, I think you'll see kind of a normal trend, and that is that it's been very stagnant the last 5 years. We've just had very little change in that at all. The other thing that I think is kind of interesting is it kind of reminds me, when you look at the vacancy rate, it kind of reminds me of the way people are quoting lease rates. You know, make them sound better, industrial quotes on a monthly basis, office quotes on a yearly basis. So what sounds cheaper? $12 a square foot or $1 a square foot? I think we're seeing a lot of that. We really have the market pegged at about 18.5%. That's what we feel it is. The good news is I think there's a lot of options for tenants looking for larger blocks of space. So in April of last year, we did a study for a client who was looking at Tucson and trying to figure out where they wanted to be, and they needed about 10,000 square feet. The analysis shocked us. We had to go back and triple check it like 3 times. We found last year that we had 57 buildings in town that could accommodate a 10,000 square foot user. By October, that number had dropped to about 52, and currently it's 50. There's also some larger blocks of space that I think people, fail to think about as well. And if you carve those up, then you would end up with a lot more options. I'm just talking about building specific. A couple of those are the big MBA building. There's 50,000 square feet at Gateway. And the former Pulte building on Oracle is now available. There's 40,000 feet for you. There's also a handful of 20,000 square foot options that are available in the market, although most of those are situated on the east side market or the extreme northwest. Most of the activity that we've seen for the last 5 or 6 years has been medical rather than office. We also hear a lot of discussion about averages, and I want to just talk about those just if I might a little bit. We noticed another firm had reported that the average sale price for office buildings in Tucson was $128 a square foot. Excuse me, $126 a square foot. And there was really no consideration about whether it was an owner-user sale, an office sale, size of the building, class, etc. We just sold a building at the end of last year. It was about 7,500 square feet for $225 a foot. We also just closed on one that was north of $200 a square foot. So it really depends, and I always hate the word averages. I do want to point to 7 what I think are positive signs. First off, for the first time really in about 6 or 7 years, we're starting to see somewhat of a return of the smaller tenants, which I think is just great. We just haven't seen those mom and pop folks for a long time. Second, we're seeing a lot of interest downtown from office users. I think the streetcar, the remote lots, groups like Mr. Car Wash and others reaffirming decision to be in and around downtown. We're just starting to see a lot of really positive buzz. I used to have people say, I have no interest in going downtown. Now people say, hey, we ought to take a look at that, which is great. Third, we're starting to see owner users look at land. I can't tell you last time I did a land sale. We currently have we have 3 transactions going on right now. They're all build-to-suits and they're all medical. So again, kind of continues that trend of just the medical. Fourth, we're starting to see some new office construction occur. I think the Morgan Stanley building that's just about completed up at Pima Canyon Skyline is a good example of that. The top of the hill stuff at Swan, just south of the gate at Skyline, is another example of that. Again, we haven't seen speculative construction in this town in about 8 years. I think it's important to note that both of those buildings that I talked about are in the foothills. That really pretty much absorbs all of the remaining land that's currently office zone that's left in the foothills. But again, very specialized, either geographically based or operationally based in something like medical. Fifth, I really think now that Banner has closed their sale of UMC and as Chronolet starts to work out their merger issue, there's a lot of pent-up demand. And I think you're going to start to see some of that start to pop out. Sixth, I think we're starting to see the crisis in confidence starting to wane. I'm not saying things are back, because they're not, but I just start to see people kind of loosen up and start to look at the market. I think people are feeling more confident about stuff. Finally, I think the investor activity is increasing. We just closed a mid-7 cap rate sale on a 10,000 square foot building, and again, we have another one that's pending. We do remain cautious. I was visiting with Jordan Simon the other day, and I think he had a quote that I thought was just so perfect when he was talking about the office market. Quote, "We finally, after a lot of work, have her off of life support and breathing on her own, but she is still in intensive care, and we need to watch over her constantly." And I think that's kind of where the market is right now. So what's the new norm? Office users are being much more efficient in their use of office space. Most office relocations involve people taking less space rather than more space. Many office users have found out during this recession that they can work from home. Technology has allowed them to do that. Levels the playing field. So we're seeing a lot of virtual offices, which really allow firms to be nimble. Kind of comically, that's something I think Fletcher started with back when he was at helm at Providence, probably 8 or 9 years ago, and I used to kid him about, you're screwing up my business by trying to be more efficient. I think others are now out working in the field rather than just spending all their time in the office. So I think that's changed. We're seeing clients build less office space in their office space. And what does that mean? It means that we're seeing more collaborative types of uses in the market. People want their employees to work together, find ways to work together, to be much more collaborative. I recently took a client of ours downtown, just kind of kicking around as we're looking at options, and they said, regardless where we go, we're going to go down to Scott Stipler's project, and we're going to rent a table, and we're going to run different groups in and out of there on a monthly basis, because we just like that energy. So what are the three things that are going to help the office market? Probably a reoccurring theme: jobs, jobs, jobs. The latest employment figures, both nationally and statewide, do show some improvement, but a lot of that data, in my opinion, was seasonally influenced by the holidays. I think the real test is going to come later this year. So where are we headed? I think the vacancy rate's going to be virtually unchanged, although we will have a slight bit of positive absorption. It's going to remain a tenant's market this year. I think new construction will be primarily medical. Again, it's the new norm. Thanks for allowing me to visit with you.